And joining me now to talk more about this is Robin Simcox, counterterrorism analyst at the Heritage Foundation. Robin, I want to start here. Thanks for being here with us, first of all.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Is Vice President Pence's in-person message of unwavering commitment to NATO enough to allay fears or concerns, as NATO leaders have an ear to Vice President Pence, hearing his words, and an eye on President Trump, watching his actions?
Well, absolutely. I think it's a good start. I think there's a lot of concern in Europe over the direction that the new administration was going to take over NATO. Partially that was to do with some of President Trump's comments on the election campaign, where he talked about NATO potentially being obsolete. I think Mike Pence's words are going to be reassuring to a good number of those European partners, although there will be that concern until it's actually translated into policy, until maybe President Trump himself is a little more forthcoming on the subject. There'll always be a measure of concern, and we need to see, of course, the response from Russia in all this, which is the key country today threatening NATO territorial integrity.
Yeah, I want to show a graphic of percentage of GDP paid to NATO as we talk about this next subject. And if you take a look there, the U.S. at 3.6%, Germany 1.2%, Europe's largest economy, by the way. And at that same Munich Security Conference, Vice President Pence also reminding NATO leaders of then-candidate Trump's call for NATO's nations to pay their fair share on military spending. Now, President Trump is calling for the 28 nations to spend 2% of GDP on military by 2020. Explain how important this is and why.
Well, this is an entirely reasonable request to make, and it's one that's not unique to President Trump. This is something that successive U.S. administrations have talked about, the need for Europe to contribute more defense spending to NATO. Let's take the example of Germany. I was exasperated to see the German foreign minister in recent days say, well, we only spend this amount, but where are we going to find the extra billions to meet our 2% commitments? Well, if you spend 170 billion a year on welfare spending, which is around 50% of their federal budget, then yes, you are going to struggle to be able to put money towards defense spending. But the idea behind NATO is collective security. You can't just have countries dropping out because they'd rather spend money on other things and then expecting the US and the UK and others to foot the bill. This is about collective security, and countries like Germany, to be frank, have to step up, and I'm glad that the US is continuing to hammer home this point.
And how essential is an assured, cohesive, reliable NATO in the fight against terrorism, and why is the U.S. leadership vital to NATO nations?
Well, obviously the U.S. is spends the most amount of money on its military. I think that it would be useful if the U.S., even though I know it takes a lot of the burden already in terms of NATO spending, if it could reverse its own budget cuts, I think that would, in terms of military spending, I think that would send a great signal to the rest of NATO. But of course, NATO has been vital in ensuring stability, the promotion of democracy and freedom in Europe since its inception in 1949. It's obviously playing a role in Afghanistan. And look, we were seeing with a increasingly aggressive Russia real threats to territorial integrity in Europe. Since 2008, you've seen the invasion of Georgia, the invasion of Ukraine. There are very clear reasons for Europe to be concerned around Putin's ambitions. America absolutely has to be at the forefront of assisting Europe to meet that threat.
Robin Simcox, I have to leave it there. I thank you for your analysis.
Thank you so much.
Take care.